Good afternoon, everybody. This is Robert Childress, CEO of the Masters Conference. I'm here with Jim Donahue, Vice President of Hanzo Archives. How are you doing, Jim?
Great, Robert. Good to see you as always.
Same here, my friend. We are excited to be meeting with you here at Legal Tech. Hanzo has been a great partner of the Masters for 3 or 4 years now, and there's a lot of exciting things I always like to talk about Hanzo, and I won't get into it, but you guys can email me later, and I'll tell you exactly what it is. But Jim, tell me, what is Hanzo? What's it all about?
Hanzo is really a platform that enables customers to collect anything over the web. So we talk about websites, social media sites, internal websites like Confluence and SharePoint, Yammer, Slack, really anything that you can see in a browser. We help customers collect it, preserve it, analyze it, and produce it.
Yeah, but one of the things that I think one of the things that drives me to be so excited about your product is you're one of the first and few products that I have speakers and individuals that when you're not even in the room, like you're not even part of the conversation, and they're talking about Hanzo. Hanzo is so much more than what you described because it actually is really the solution for social media. Is that pretty accurate? I mean,
it is. Yeah, we have a great client base. We have some very large companies, leading tech companies, government agencies using us, so folks like Twitter, LinkedIn. We do a lot of work for the Department of Justice, and the thing that they count on us for is authenticity and defensibility in the captures. Really, when you think about social media, the world is sort of trending towards social platforms.
Right.
So websites, company websites, are becoming much more like social media platforms. There's interaction, there's engagement of customers, there's personalization. Even when you're talking about a company website, and when you think about internal web platforms, intranet sites like SharePoint and Confluence, you see that same sort of interaction, especially when you talk about things like Yammer and Jive and Slack and collaborative platforms.
Slack, that's the company.
They're growing astronomically. In fact, we're announcing a partnership today with Slack with the rollout of their new enterprise platform, which is a big, exciting thing for us.
Yeah, what I think is really intriguing about your organization is we don't hear much conversation from the San Francisco tech companies in our space, right? So we hear a lot about emails and data, but we don't hear Slack, we don't hear LinkedIn, right? And I have a strong feeling that the future of our space is going to be, the cyber world hates to hear the word profile, right? But when you think about social media, it's actually creating, from a discovery standpoint, it's creating that web of capturing that profile. It's a bad word in the police department in the cyber world, but in our world, it's so much more beneficial. I mean, you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, the world is shifting. The EDiscovery world is shifting. When you think about the platforms that people use to communicate, email is going to be there for a long time.
Right.
But you're seeing the emergence of these new platforms like Slack, where people are able to send messages and collaborate in a very different kind of way that doesn't fit in the traditional models of e-discovery. And it takes a new generation of tools to collect and preserve that kind of content as those new generations of applications are coming into the workplace. If you think about it, you've probably heard me give this example before, but if you think about all the people you know in your life that are 25 years old and younger, and you think about the number of times in the past 6 months you've gotten an email from one of those people, it's probably zero, right? Younger people don't use email the same way. I'll say older people, but
I'm 24, so I'm doing a lot of social media.
I'm coming up on my 20th annual 29th birthday. So,
there you go.
So cool. It's just there's a different set of data that's coming out, and it's really going to impact how that content is collected, how it's reviewed, and how it's produced. Especially when you think about how that content is going to be used at deposition, at trial. With web content, there's so much more interactivity with the information that you're seeing on the screen, right? Things like mouse overs, things like scroll boxes, drop down with selections that aren't there when you look at static emails, static Word documents, right? And you need a very dynamic platform to collect it, to review it, to produce it, to be able to view it as it was kept and presented in the ordinary course of business.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that whole discussion that we just had is there's no deletion of data, right? And then on top of that, it's multiple in multiple different ways. Like for instance, Slack, is in multiple different locations, right? So Slack might be a Google calendar address, right? And then it might be like LinkedIn, and then it might be in Slack, right?
Yep.
Slack aggregates this all together.
Yes, so in Slack is a messaging platform, so you're going to have documents, you're going to have external links, so it's a kind of a multi-dimensional information structure,
right.
So that what you see in a Slack message isn't everything that you need contained
right.
in Slack, right? It might be pointing you to a website, it might be pointing you to a document.
Right.
And there's all sorts of other things you need to consider about who else had access to that message, even if they weren't responding. Did they see it? When did they see it? There's multiple layers.
And from a discovery standpoint, it's on steroids, right? So Hanzo is that solution, because what we're really staring at is from an email, you've got chain of custody, you've got metadata, you've got all these things, right? But then when we look at social media, it's not only all of those things, plus
it's capturing at a point in time.
Right.
Because it's so fluid and so dynamic. You really need preservation at an instant to be able to see what it looked like at that particular point in time.
Right. But I think what's even crazier, right, is the fact that now we're talking about the social aspect, right? Mm-hmm. So there's discovery where it's, did he take the Excel sheet or not? Did he do this or that? But then let's talk about discovery to intent, right? The word intent, right? Social media has that ability to give you that intent, right? Because you have email, which is like, you're not going to write in there like, haha, let's get them, get all the email. But in social media, you might be like, win, happy face,
yeah,
and it's so before
emojis and acronyms and things like that. Plus, you see much more video.
Sure.
You see much more in the multimedia world, right? That the idea of collecting video and images and interactive multimedia presences like podcasts, which is another great one.
Sure.
That adds a whole other dimension to the kind of information that people are collecting, and that Hanzo is really good at. The thing that we do, we think better than anybody else, is capturing web content as it's presented, as somebody would see it. So you can look later on and say, yep, this is exactly how a person would have seen this Facebook page, this Twitter site, this web page, this YouTube video. Even if it's a year or 2 or 3 years later, you'll see it exactly as it was presented originally.
Yeah, I mean, that's exciting stuff. So I could talk to you nonstop because this is such a hot topic. Hanzo is such a hot company. I really appreciate you taking your time to meet with me today.
Thank you, Robert. It's great to see you.
What I really want to get across to you guys that's listening to this podcast is this is a new wave of e-discovery. And I don't even like the word e-discovery because electronic discovery seems so archaic to me anymore. It's like saying analog discovery, electronic discovery. It's like, I don't know about you, but I don't walk around and go, I got to buy some electronics today, right? So, but when we look at social media, right, and we think about where the future's going, it's so much more impactful to your case, right? And Hanzo is bleeding edge. You guys are braving new territory. You guys are working with new companies that are not new in the tech world, but are new in our space, right? And that's exciting. And so I really appreciate your time today, and wish you luck this week. And
thanks, Robert. Appreciate you having me. Good to see you as always.
Same here. Thanks again.